Okay, so the following indicator we're going to cover is the DTB Velocity, and then we'll cover the vertical line of time, the flat baseline Wick trader indicator, and the trend baseline indicator. Okay, so the velocity, it's basically, the definition for velocity is given a certain amount of time, what is the velocity of movement of price? So this indicator is ideal for scalping the markets, and it even helps with identifying reversal points and continuation points. Basically also defines the acceleration of momentum. So it's basically going to show you areas where there is extreme volatility, where the price is moving very fast and the bars are forming very fast. So that's basically velocity. Now we do have different settings in the velocity. So there it has, if we have a look at the chart itself, it has got these moving average lines inside there, and it's got the shading between the moving average lines. So that's basically called the channel. So you can select the size of the channel, which is the line, should I say, the line for the channel, and the coloring of those lines. And you can also say if you want it on or off. So if you don't want to see the channel at all, it will just basically hide those lines and only show you the velocity numbers. And then you've got a few different moving averages that you can choose. So you've got your high moving average and you've got a low moving average. So your fast and your slow, basically, moving averages. And obviously your period that you can select. And you can choose the opacity for the zone. So if you don't want that to show, you can obviously clear that out and make it full opacity. So the next part of it is the times. So you can separate certain times of the trading day into velocity numbers. Now obviously during the US session, the velocity of price is so much faster, which is over here. The price is going to move so much faster, so the velocity numbers, you can actually increase them to suit the market or suit the market conditions or the time of day. So right now, the beginning time, I've basically selected 8 p.m. to 11:50 p.m. and I've put in numbers 60 to 80. So you can go and change these times. So whatever time you want to put in, you can actually add that in. You just cannot go from PM to AM. So NinjaTrader does not allow, or does not work doing any sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Analysis between PM and AM. So you can go and create a trading hours template for between AM and PM, but you cannot use any analyzing periods in an indicator or even an automated strategy. You can't even use an automated strategy to trade between PM and AM. It just doesn't allow that at all. You can trade from AM to PM. It's just the way NinjaTrader is set up. It does not allow you to work from PM to AM. So whenever you're doing these beginning times and ending times, always select your PM hours and go up until the latest PM, and then start again from AM and then work on to PM. So those are the different numbers. Now if you go and apply those numbers on the chart, so I put 60 and 80, and what you can do is you could apply a set of numbers, but the only really way to see if those numbers are effective is to actually work with the trading lines indicator. So the trading lines indicator is going to give you different pivot points. We've discussed this in a previous video. It's going to give you different pivot points. It's going to give you support and resistance levels. It's going to give you the option over here to show different days lines. Say if you want to show 5 days lines, that's open, high, lows and close of 5 days. Make sure that you've at least got 5 trading days loaded on your chart. So you can show all the different text. You can show different levels of lines, how many lines you want to show, and also extra lines. So there's quite a few different things for the trading lines, but we're just going to leave it at the at the default setting for the trading lines and apply that to the chart. And that's going to show us resistance points, it's going to show us pivot points. So you're going to find that during these times when they are bouncing price off supports and resistances in the market, these different velocity, this is when they're really acting on price. So a lot of the institutions are looking at pivot points, are looking at resistance levels. And the good thing with this indicator, it's got those pre-built in it, together with the highs and the lows. So you'll find that price, this was yesterday at 4 p.m., so the settings were good over there for that period. It's just going to show you price moving around and reacting to different levels. Now I haven't set the right timing for the indicator for different times, because I'm basically working in the Asian session. So as you progress through the sessions, you can go and modify your velocity numbers for those specific hours and see how they match according to resistance and pivot points. Now it doesn't help going back on a chart like this, because even though we're going to see these the velocity in force over here, we don't know where the pivot points were or the resistance levels were at this time on the chart. The chart's only going to show you the most current support and resistance levels. So only when you're actually trading live on the chart are you able to see how these numbers come into effect. So there it is, using the shadow trading and trading lines. So again, you can apply it on different indicators. It can also give you it'll give you some really good key points of where price could be bouncing around. So if you're seeing price bounce around pivot points or resistance points with the velocity, that could be a hint that they're bouncing the price off these levels and they're going to be pushing it up, or they might be pushing it right through or even reversing it. So this is very much an indicator that we are still working on. I'm still working on how to get the best numbers for the velocity. But if you just modify these numbers, and if you understand the concept of velocity, working with these numbers, you'll be able to find numbers that suit the sessions that you're working in. And the good thing is it's got different time slots basically built in. So use that on different charts. Obviously with different size bars, you're going to need different size velocities. So it's a matter of picking your specific type of trading time frame, whether it's tick charts or minute charts, seeing what price is doing. So like they could also be forcing price down to a resistance level and then bouncing it off and then it continuing up. So there's a few different things that, again, these numbers aren't specifically optimized to run on these specific sessions. I just loaded it up on this indicator with its default settings. Here it is on a 500 tick Heikin Ashi. Again, only really the numbers were only really set for this last resistance point, which was 4 p.m. yesterday. So very often you can see when price comes to a certain type of support or resistance level, there's a lot of velocity being forced around on that price. Very often it'll take off in a direction, either through the resistance or basically bouncing off it. So that is that. Now the next indicator we'll look at, this is a very, very simple indicator. It's just called vertical line at time. So whether you are choosing to trade very specific hours of the day, you can just put in a time over there, and you can choose the coloring of the line. So I just chose a cyan color for the line, which is that one over there. So it's just showing that from 8 p.m. and I selected another instance of it to 11 p.m. 8 to 11. So if you were planning on having specific trading hours of the day and you're not watching your time and you just watching the charts, just by having these lines in, it'll tell you where you are in your time frame. Also, if you're trading automated trading strategies, you can set these lines up between the hours that you select in your strategy. So we're going to cover the strategies in later videos, but if you've got specific time slots for your strategies and you've put them in here, you could use those trading hours lines on your chart to just highlight them, highlight them a bit more. Okay, so the next indicator we're going to look at is the flat baseline indicator. Now I've got the session break times on here, but if I remove those in the data series, the trading hours break line, just make that transparent. Okay, so this is a flat baseline chart. So if you look at this flat baseline chart, we had a baseline running May 19th of May. It basically went up 19. So on the 20th of May is the latest baseline. So only 4 days old, the specific baseline. So from the 20th of May, 11:50 up until now, the 24th, it's been running the one huge 1500 tick flat baseline, and we've only had small deviations from this baseline. So we've had this largest one was 569 ticks, so just on a third of it, and we currently are 695 ticks away from the baseline on the 1500 chart. So the indicator that just helps with this to see where price is the flat baseline indicator. So Wick Trader flat baseline, and we use the value of the chart that we're looking at. So because we're running a 1500 chart, we're going to add ticks to next baseline. We're going to make that as 1500, and then apply that, and then OK. So what that's going to do is going to give us a percentage value of how far price is away from the baseline. So this is one of the first indicators I developed for the flat and trending baseline, and since then I've actually added in another little indicator that we had a look at in a previous video, and that was just the tick distance counter. So you can use either one of these to give you the value, or you can even use both. So it'll give you a snapshot of what percentage the price is away from either breaking a baseline or returning to a baseline, and also the tick value that price has moved. So if you are trading an automated strategy, so if we're looking at the automated strategies that's designed for these specific type of charts, this one here is the Medina Wick Trader flat baseline, and this one here you can basically put in your retracement values. We'll look at that shortly when we cover the Wick Trader strategies. But because we're trading a 1500 baseline, so if you put in 1450 in there, and your stop ticks will be your 1500, which is the size of the baseline. You can space out your entries to whatever amount that you want, and then you can choose specific targets for your entries, or you could target a specific value back to the baseline. So let's just make this 200 in this example. And so the idea with this is you can choose your minimum distance from the baseline to enter a position. So that is how far up the baseline you want to enter a position. So say for example we're on 688 ticks now, so we don't want to enter a position below 600 ticks. So minimum distance we can choose is 600 ticks. So if we were looking to trade this chart automated now and traded the price back down to the baseline, this is what the type of thing you'll be looking at. And we don't want to enter any trades past the next level, so you can go and work out what the next level is in ticks. You might do this before you actually put the settings in, but you don't want to enter any positions past 800 as an example. and then you're going to put your stop in. Now, your stop ticks that you select can be any value above the maximum distance. So if you only want to risk 100 ticks on your trade, you can basically make this as a 900. And then activating the strategy at however many entries, max entries per direction. You can choose that, and I'll just apply this very quickly to a chart just to show you what it looks like once it's been loaded. Okay, there we go. So that's going to give you the percentages, and let me just see, we're on the Sim 101, which is this account. So there we go. So it's entered a position, it's put its target, and it's put its stop at that 900 value. So if you look at between these two lines over here, this line and this line, in this entire area, this is where trades will be entering. So that's the location that trades will be entering on this specific wick. So while this wick is in development, that's where the trades will be entering, and then it will have individual profit targets for each trade. So this indicator that's been developed is just to show you the value of price in movement away from the baseline, and then obviously you can go and work out what your distances are, so you can work out different values or different distances. So if you're working from the baseline and you're thinking, okay, I'm prepared to enter positions up until the 76%, that's 1,149 ticks. So you'll put your maximum distance as your 1149 or thereabouts. Give it a little bit of leeway, and you can choose your minimum distance too. So the same thing would go for if you're wanting to enter trades at the 61 or up to the 61. So you can choose, I only want to enter trades between these values. It's just giving you percentage values. You can set your minimum distance as 930 and your maximum distance as 1149, and then you can put your stop anywhere above that. So it's just to help you look at different sections. You can basically section the wick to enter positions. So you've got just by having those percentage values there, you can target different sections of the wick to enter your automated trades, and it will only enter in that different section. So that is the flat baseline, and the exact same thing happens on the trending baseline. So if I close this one and I go to the trending baseline and I remove the session markers. Actually, before we remove the session markers, you can see we've been in a very nice trend the entire session. So yesterday's open, we had the price come down a bit, and then we came up all the way to the close actually. So from session open to close, it was down, and then when the session reopened, we had an uptrending price the entire day from 3:27 in the morning right the way until session close at 5 o'clock. So this is on the DTB bars 1440. If you look at it on the analytical bars, it'll look a bit different. It'll show you the specific movements of price during the day with break at end of day on. But I'll just remove the session marker in the data series so we can see this wick that we are looking at. Alright, so same thing over here. We can go and apply an indicator. So we can go to the ticks above, below. We go to that trending baseline indicator. So Medina Wick Trader trend baseline. We're working on a 440 chart. So I'm going to put 440 in there. Apply that. And click on OK. Again, it's busy calculating, so when it's calculating, don't click anything on the chart. Alright, so now that's going to give us those values in percentages away from the baseline. So the baseline is this one over here, and then the price breaking or deviating from the baseline is forming these wicks. So again, we can also go and apply the tick distance counter. So these two indicators you can use together. They really good just to give you those specific values, so you know how far price is away from the baseline. Okay, right. So at the moment, price is 48 ticks or 45 ticks away from the baseline, and then these are all the percentages. So it got to almost the 50% mark during the day, and obviously that has, so since it hit since this morning, it's basically dropped down to that value, and it's actually increased in ticks. So if you are trading your strategy, and you are trading your trending baseline strategy, that is the strategy that you would apply to this chart using your minimum and maximum values. If you want to trade all the way to the baseline, you can select that. If you want to choose a maximum distance, you can choose that. So if you want to trade the whole baseline, you can go 400. It's a 440, so just go a little bit below the 440. So you can even go 420 as where the maximum entry would be, and then you can go 450. So just give it a little bit of leeway at the other side of the baseline. You can space out your entries by however many ticks you want to do. You want that, and you can have a fixed target of 5 ticks from the baseline. So what that will do is it will have your strategy entering positions on this wick with all of the targets being at 5 ticks from the baseline. So it's going to enter positions in this zone over here from where this line is to this line. So we've just selected those values of trades where trades can be entered, and it's based on whatever retracement you are working with. So that's a good way. So if you were able to start this strategy at on a large wick, even at the 50% point, you could have had multiple trades on this wick, all leading back down to the baseline. We're going to go into how to take those positions or how to activate those strategies, but in the very meantime, I'm just going to load a chart on here, which is another variation of it. So I'm going to just put in a 22 and a 22 and load that on the chart. I'm going to make it the same panel. Apply that. Give that a second to load. Okay, so what this is doing is it's showing you the baseline, but then the second data series is showing you the deviations of price from that baseline, which is this wick over here. So this wick that we are looking at on the chart, this wick, all of this action in between where the price left the baseline and has been moving since it left the baseline is in this vicinity over here. So there's a few different ways of looking at this. You can go and add your indicators, which will help you determine purchase times, for the, or it will allow you to, it will help you identify times of when you can activate your strategy for the automated trading. So as usual, we look at the shadow trading indicator, and we can even look at the SI indicator. That can be optimized. I'm just going to go a 2 and a 4 on that, and we're applying these indicators to the second data series that we've just added in. So we're going to be selecting the 2222 and the 2222 on this one also. So give that a second to load. there we go. So that's going to just help us identify times to enter or to activate the strategy. So by looking at arrows that we are seeing on the 22 bar, you know, divergent arrows facing upwards, we've got the brick walls, price breaking through brick walls, all opportunities to catch the lows of this wick. Yeah, the ideal thing you want to do is you want to catch a low, you want to catch the price on a wick. So the price reached almost the 50%. You've had some arrows over there to show that there's a good chance the price is going to be going back towards the baseline. And it did for a while. Then we had divergence arrows that in the opposite direction. So once you got your strategy activated and you're lucky to catch it at a point like this, when you get your divergent arrows, you know, showing the opposite direction and you get a brick wall, that's where you can pause your strategy so you can capture all the profits from in this move over here. So catching the profits in a move like this, pausing the strategy, getting another signal to activate a strategy after the price has successfully broken through the other side of a brick wall, and then be in that trade up until you get an opposing brick wall or even those divergences. You can also be safe and pause the strategy at a time like that. But we're going to look more into the actual setting up of the strategy and working with the different indicators to identify the best times to enter and exit the markets, as well as just combining a few of the indicators onto different charts to help us identify price movement and trading opportunities. Good, so that basically covers the indicators that make up the DTB system. There are going to be future updates made to indicators. There might even be some little modifications done to the indicators, but what I'll be doing then is I'll be making a new video of those specific indicators. And as new indicators are added, I'm going to be adding them to this to the video series for the indicators. Great, thank you for being with me in covering the DTB indicators, and we're going to move on to the next section of the training, which will cover the different strategies that the DTB system has. Thank you, and chat to you soon.